Welcome back. I'm here at the historic rail park here in Bowling Green. Really cool place. I recommend if you're ever in town going and taking a look at it. Now, I have always thought trains were cool. It's just something about the mechanical nature of it. Anyways, a few years ago I ran across something online called Live Steam where people make miniature trains, and I always thought that was really kind of a cool idea. I don't think I will ever have the tools needed to make something like that, but I thought it would be cool to try. So I watched a bunch of videos and looked at different types, and they always seem to be the kind that you just sit on like a kid's toy, and that doesn't interest me. I thought, what if you made one that you can sit in? Kind of like that. So I started playing around in CAD and kind of started designing something. But yet again, you've seen the tools that I have to work with. Not really a machine shop at the ready. But I do have a 3D printer. So I was wondering if I could 3D print some of the bigger components and then hand tool the rest of it. And that is what we're going to try to do right now. So let me show you some of the things that I have mocked up, because the first part that's got to be figured out, and it's got to be figured out right, is where the train meets the rails. Now when I say train truck, I mean this part right here. It's where the train actually touches the rails. It has the axles, it has the brakes, it has the electric motors if it's part of the locomotive. That's the first part we got to build. I'm thinking for us to be able to ride inside the train, we're going to have to make the gauge about 15 inches. That's the distance between the rails. There's also a big pivot bearing that we're going to have to figure out, because that's what allows the train truck to go around the turns and not throw the train onto its side. All right, now that we're inside, let's take a look at the two 3D printers we're going to be using for this project. That one there is an older one. It's an Anycubic Citron, and this is an Anycubic Cobra 3 Max. Both of them will do about 15 inches square by 17 inches tall, and they're going to be the workhorses. They're going to print a lot of the bigger items that we still may have to print in pieces and then adjoin. But hopefully these parts will be strong enough to do what we want them to, and doing it this way is going to give me the abilities that I wouldn't otherwise without having a mill and a lathe and a drill press and everything else. With that being said, let's go take a look at the 3D model of the parts that I have come up with. Welcome to the math model of what we're going to be building. Hopefully when we're done, this is what the train truck will look like. There are two powered axles, which means the locomotive will have 4 powered axles. That should give us plenty of tractive force to move it around. The wheels are going to be made from brake drums, and this is because I needed something metal, something with a proper taper to it, and a lip. Brake drums fit the bill. Each brake drum will have its own brake pad for stopping. The two sides will be held together with 3 pieces of all thread that will clamp the sides and the left and right halves of this. There will be a central crossbeam that the train's frame will attach to. This is the piece that is probably going to evolve the most, as we will need to come up with a way of stabilizing the frame on this pivot point. The brakes will be pneumatic in nature. There will be an electric motor, 2 drive sprockets, and then 2 idler sprockets to keep the chain out of trouble. The axles will be attached to the side piece through these flange bearings. They get attached to a separate piece. This separate piece will allow us to change axles if we should need to, without having to take the whole thing apart. So let's look at these pieces a little bit more individually. The first set of pieces that we're going to be working on is the side pieces. As you can tell by the colors, this is going to be 2 separate pieces that will lap together in the middle. The purpose for this is at the scale that I want to build this, it's too big to print in one piece on either of the 3D printers. So we will cut it up into 2 pieces, lap the middle, and that should give us our strength needed for being load bearing. As you can see, these are the notches that the bearing plates will slide into. This will allow us to just lift up the train truck, and the axle should fall out the bottom. This opening is so that we can put in a little bit of suspension and give to that center cross beam. That may or may not be necessary. If it is something that we need, we can put springs in here, either above and or below the cross beam. And if it is not something that is needed, we can just stiffen this up with a plate. Talking about the axles, this is what the axle would look like. It is going to be a 1-inch metal rod with 2 brake drums attached to an adapter plate that will be pinned to the axle, so that when this gear is spun, the axle will spin, turn the wheels, and the train will move forward. The brake assembly is a little bit more complicated. So this pneumatic piston will push out, which will rotate this, pull onto these 2 beams, which will pull onto the arms, which will push the brake pads out and up against the outer side of the drum. This works similar to how brakes on a train work nowadays. So I figured, well, let's try to do that as an option. All of these parts assembled will create this, and then we will have to figure out a frame and body and seating and wiring and how to power the electric motors. There's a lot of engineering that's going to go into this. I'm really interested to see how it comes out. The next video that will be on this, we would be making the sides and start assembling some other components. Until then, thank you and take care.